Xiao Yan, with his own power, slew the ninth Heavenly Dou Zun of the Soul Hall and severely injured the fourth Heavenly Dou Zun, saving the Yan Alliance. Continuing from the previous chapter, as Xiao Yan's cold voice echoed through the heavens and the earth, the distant black mist also fluctuated and spread out. A blue figure slowly stepped out from it. The ninth Heavenly Dou Zun stared at Xiao Yan in the distance with a sneer and said, "So it's you, the homeless cur. I didn't expect you to dare to come back here. Since you're here, I might as well capture you and take you back." Xiao Yan smiled and said, "I'm afraid you don't have the qualifications." The ninth Heavenly Dou Zun said in a cold voice, "You are really arrogant, thinking that a slight increase in strength can make you arrogant. Once you're here, you won't be able to leave." Just as his voice fell, the black mist behind him fluctuated again, and then three figures flashed out and finally stood beside the ninth Heavenly Dou Zun. When Kai Lin and others saw the four people who suddenly appeared, their faces changed slightly, obviously feeling their terrifying aura. Xiao Yan glanced at the three old men in black robes, who were obviously the strong people of the Soul Hall, and their strength had all reached the level of 8-star Dou Zun. It seems that they are the ones mentioned in the intelligence. Haha, the people of the Soul Hall really like to do these tricks. Suddenly, a loud laugh came from behind Xiao Yan, and then three figures appeared instantly behind Xiao Yan, who were the three elders of the Hu clan invited. "Young master, let the ninth Heavenly Dou Zun be handed over to you, and the other three people will be handed over to us. How about that?" Hearing the words of the eldest of the Hu family, Xiao Yan smiled slightly and then nodded. The three elders of the Hu family are all 8-star Dou Zun, and there should be no problem in dealing with three people of the same level. Haha, since that's the case, let's see who solves the opponent first. The eldest of the Hu family laughed, and then rushed towards a black-robed old man first. The second and third elders of the Hu family followed closely. Looking at the 6 people who started the battle in an instant, the ninth Heavenly Dou Zun frowned slightly. He did not expect Xiao Yan to bring so many strong people from the Central Plains. "Our task this time is to capture all the Xiao family members. It seems that we have to deal with this guy first today." The ninth Heavenly Dou Zun's eyes flickered with a cold light, and then he stepped on the void, and his figure disappeared under the attention of many eyes. Seeing him disappear, Xiao Yan in the sky suddenly waved his palm and hit the void, and a virtual figure appeared instantly where the wind passed. The cold and fierce wind collided fiercely with Xiao Yan's palm, and the cold and hot wind burst out fiercely, and the surrounding space was also distorted by the shock. When the fierce wind surged, the figure of the ninth Heavenly Dou Zun appeared, and he made a muffled hum in his throat, and was actually shaken back more than 10 steps by Xiao Yan's palm. His face immediately showed a touch of surprise. "I didn't expect that Xiao Yan's breath has reached such a terrible level after just half a year." On the city wall, the strong people of the Yan Alliance saw that Xiao Yan actually had the upper hand in the battle with the ninth Heavenly Dou Zun, and they burst into cheers. Their eyes showed an uncontrollable look of shock. Being able to repel the ninth Heavenly Dou Zun of the 8-star Dou Zun means that Xiao Yan now has at least the strength of the 8-star Dou Zun. Hai Bo Dong and others looked at each other for a moment, then sighed helplessly. Over the years, they have barely broken through to the Dou Zong level with the accumulation of the Yan Alliance's pills, thinking that this speed is already very fast, but it is incomparable to Xiao Yan. "I haven't seen you for more than half a year, and you haven't made any progress at all." Compared with the surprise of the ninth Heavenly Dou Zun, Xiao Yan just shook his head slightly. Hearing Xiao Yan say this, the ninth Heavenly Dou Zun's face immediately turned iron green. He quickly made a seal, and the cold air around him condensed into a huge energy palm, howling towards Xiao Yan and hitting fiercely. Faced with the strong attack of the ninth Heavenly Dou Zun, Xiao Yan stepped in the void as if he were walking in the garden, and a series of afterimages appeared behind him, making those energy palms all miss. Even some that couldn't be avoided were shattered by a backhand palm. The ninth Heavenly Dou Zun thought in his heart, "It's not just the 8-star, or the peak of the 8-star. This guy has improved too fast, and it's no longer something I can fight against." Looking at his own attack being easily shattered by Xiao Yan and unharmed, the ninth Heavenly Dou Zun, although his face was ugly, had to admit that his current strength is no longer a match for Xiao Yan. He decisively gritted his teeth and quickly retreated. Why run away when you come? Seeing the nineth Heavenly Dou Zun wanting to escape, Xiao Yan smiled and slowly disappeared, and then appeared behind the nineth Heavenly Dou Zun like a ghost. He gently patted the void, and a circle of black light spread. Feeling the approaching destructive breath behind him, the nineth Heavenly Dou Zun's face turned pale. Now Xiao Yan is performing the grand Heavenly Creation Palm and other heaven-class combat skills, which is a real desperate situation for him. When the breath of death shrouded his heart, he suddenly lowered his head and looked at the sharp ground and shouted loudly, "Fourth brother, save me!" Hearing the sudden scream of the nineth Heavenly Dou Zun, Xiao Yan was slightly stunned, and then his peripheral vision glanced at the ground dyed red with blood. The Soul Hall really has more powerful people hiding aside and not yet making a move. Regardless of whether there is help or not, kill this guy first. Xiao Yan's eyes flashed coldly in an instant, and his right palm suddenly pushed forward, and the spread speed of the black light circle suddenly increased sharply. Feeling the terrifying energy approaching from behind, the nineth Heavenly Dou Zun's Dou Qi suddenly surged out, and he swung it towards the back with all his strength. However, no matter how he fought back, the spread speed of the black light circle did not slow down at all. Seeing that all kinds of struggles were ineffective, the nineth Heavenly Dou Zun's face suddenly turned pale, and his shrill scream rang out again. However, as his scream fell, the ground suddenly violently shook and cracked open, and in the blink of an eye, a deep chasm hundreds of feet wide quickly spread. With the appearance of this deep chasm, a rich and nauseating smell of blood also surged out from it, mixed with extremely shrill screams. Seeing this, Xiao Yan was shocked, but his hand was not slow. The black light circle intensified sharply under his urging, and finally swallowed the nineth Heavenly Dou Zun's whole body. And when the black light circle swallowed his body, the deep chasm below also made a gurgling sound. A moment later, the blood-red color suddenly appeared from the dark, deep chasm, and those were obviously a sticky and bright red sea of blood. The blood sea wriggled, and a figure dressed in blood red slowly emerged. This sudden blood-colored figure made many strong people of the Lion Abyss sect feel stunned, and they obviously did not know that there was such a mysterious strong person in their own camp. This person has a terrifying strength. Some strong people of the Yin Alliance looked at the blood-colored figure, and their hearts were slightly heavy. Although they couldn't perceive the strength of the other party exactly, it was obvious that this person was probably the strongest in the Lion Abyss sect camp. The eldest of the Hu family said with a heavy face, "Young master, be careful. This person is a very famous strong person in the Central Plains, and his blood is extremely strange, which has caused many top strong people to die." But then he suddenly disappeared, and it turned out that he had joined the Soul Hall. Hearing the words of the eldest of the Hu family, the figure on the blood sea raised his head, and his voice was hoarse and laughed, "Hee, that was the name a long time ago. Now you can call me the fourth Heavenly Dou Zun of the Soul Hall." Xiao Yan's eyes were slightly dim, and the strength of the person in front of him seemed to have reached the peak of the 9-star Dou Zun. If he had not rushed back in time, the fate of the Yin Alliance would be worrying. "You are leisurely, but you are too lazy to save your companions." Xiao Yan smiled lightly, casually raised his hand, and a torn and deformed corpse flew out, finally falling in front of the fourth Heavenly Dou Zun. It looks like it was the nineth Heavenly Dou Zun who was hit by the grand Heavenly Creation Palm before, but it has completely lost its vitality. This waste that has failed several times, it's useless to save it. The fourth Heavenly Dou Zun glanced at the corpse coldly and said, then spat out a blood arrow that suddenly shot out, blowing it into a blood pulp explosion. Then he sighed and said, "I didn't want to make a move, but this guy is too incompetent. Since that's the case, I'll do it. I want to take back the blood of all the people of the Xiao family." With the words of the fourth Heavenly Dou Zun falling, the abyssal blood sea suddenly surged violently, and the cold and strange breath surged from his body, like a storm sweeping through. In the range where this breath spread, whether it was the people of the Yin Alliance or the Lion Abyss sect, their blood boiled fiercely at this moment. Then there was a series of crisp sounds, and countless people's bodies exploded at this moment. The fourth Heavenly Dou Zun's indiscriminate massacre naturally caused horror between the two sides, and those who were close to the abyss hurriedly retreated. In a moment, this area became empty. Scum! Have you forgotten the agreement between us? The Xiao, who was severely injured by Xiao Yan before, also took a breath and shouted angrily. Hearing the words, the fourth Heavenly Dou Zun glanced indifferently, then raised his palm and pointed to him from a distance, and then suddenly clenched his fist. The distant roar of the Xiao suddenly stopped. Seeing the fourth Heavenly Dou Zun, even the leader of the Lion Abyss sect was killed at will. The faces of the strong people of the Lion Abyss sect changed greatly. This guy is capricious. Kai Lin frowned slightly and said in a deep voice, "Now I just hope Xiao Yan can stop this guy." The person who calls himself the fourth Heavenly Dou Zun is obviously terrifyingly powerful, and no one here can match it. Suddenly, a wave surged from the blood sea below, and the fourth Heavenly Dou Zun walked in the void, finally stopping not far from Xiao Yan. The peak of the 8-star Dou Zun. The strength is quite strong. The fourth Heavenly Dou Zun looked at Xiao Yan. A smile appeared on his face that was not good-looking, and then he raised his palm and fiercely grasped towards him. With his action, the space in front of him twisted instantly. Seeing this, Xiao Yan frowned slightly. His mind moved, and the surging Dou Qi immediately turned into a raging flame that wrapped his whole body. Dou Qi can't stop my blood transformation technique. The fourth Heavenly Dou Zun saw Xiao Yan's action and hoarsely laughed. Xiao Yan felt that the blood in his body had lost control at the moment. However, just as he was about to suppress it, his heart suddenly beat fiercely, and then he found a strange force coming out of the heart and finally entered the blood vessels. When this force merged into the blood, the boiling feeling suddenly dissipated. Is this the blood that was integrated in the heavenly tomb? This change surprised Xiao Yan, and he couldn't believe that this new blood was so powerful that it had no effect on the fourth Heavenly Dou Zun's blood transformation technique. Feeling the blood in his body gradually calming down, Xiao Yan raised his head and smiled at the fourth Heavenly Dou Zun. "It seems that your blood is not as powerful as you said." Seeing Xiao Yan's unresponsiveness, the fourth Heavenly Dou Zun was also puzzled. His blood transformation technique is a heaven-class combat skill, and even the strength of the half-Dosheng level will be disturbed. Why does it have no effect on Xiao Yan? Xiao Yan smiled slightly, his hands quickly made a seal, and with the formation of the seal, a strange clan mark slowly appeared on his forehead. The Xiao family's clan mark. "You have actually activated the blood of the Xiao family." Seeing the clan mark on Xiao Yan's forehead, the fourth Heavenly Dou Zun said in surprise, and Xiao Yan's breath also surged in an instant when the clan mark appeared, not inferior to the fourth Heavenly Dou Zun in a short time. Feeling the surging Dou Qi in his body, Xiao Yan couldn't help but take a comfortable breath. Then he stepped forward with his foot, and his figure disappeared. Seeing Xiao Yan disappear, the fourth Heavenly Dou Zun sneered, and then fiercely hit the right side of the void. The fist wind twisted the surrounding space, and then a figure also appeared, which was Xiao Yan. Although his position was found, Xiao Yan didn't mean to dodge. On the contrary, he took a step forward and let the attack of the fourth Heavenly Dou Zun fall heavily on his chest. At the same time, his hot fist wind also suddenly roared, and the fists of the two people fell heavily on each other's bodies. However, Xiao Yan, who took a punch from the fourth Heavenly Dou Zun, just shook his shoulder a little, and his face did not change. In contrast, the fourth Heavenly Dou Zun was directly shaken back several steps by Xiao Yan's punch. The fourth Heavenly Dou Zun stared gloomily at Xiao Yan, who could be immune to his attack, but he could not ignore the other party's attack. This kind of battle was really suffocating. Grand blood-devouring technique. The fourth Heavenly Dou Zun's face was ferocious, and he shouted angrily. With his angry shout, all the strong people within 1,000 feet around with strength lower than the Dou Huang level exploded in an instant, turning into a stream of blood pulp that poured into his body. At the same time, the blood sea below also surged, turning into a huge blood wave that rushed into his body crazily. The fourth Heavenly Dou Zun said, "Xiao Yan, don't treat me as the kind of waste that 9 Tianzun is." The blood of all the people in your Xiao family, including the blood you have activated, I will definitely take it today. Looking at the moment when the fourth Heavenly Dou Zun's breath surged, Xiao Yan's eyes flashed a heavy color. This guy can make a name for himself in the Central Plains, and there is a certain skill. His breath now has surpassed the ordinary peak of the Dou Zun. Although there is only one step between the peak of the Dou Zun and the half Dou Qiong, this step is like a natural moat, and the gap between the two is indescribable. Hidden in this step is a unique cultivation method, which only the strong people close to this level can sense. Some top strong people call this unique cultivation method 9 turns to become a saint. The so-called 9 turns are used to measure the gap between the peak of the Dou Zun and the half Dou Qiong. The 9 turns are not complicated. Simply put, it is the concept of 9 times of condensation and compression to achieve the state of perfection. At the same time, under this compression, the Dou Qi in the body will also undergo a qualitative change. Once you step over the immeasurable natural moat and truly enter the saint level, only after completing the 9 turns can you become a saint or half Dou Qiong. The previous 4th Heavenly Dou Zun was already at the peak of the Dou Zun, but it was only the first turn of the peak of the Dou Zun, even slightly weaker than Xiao Yan after using the clan mark. But now he has absorbed a lot of energy from the blood, and has directly surged to the 3rd turn. Of course, there is still an insurmountable gap with the half Dou Qiong. As long as he has not reached the half Dou Qiong, Xiao Yan still has a certain chance of winning. With the sharp increase in breath, the 4th Heavenly Dou Zun's eyes also became more and more red. He stared at Xiao Yan. A smile appeared on his face, and then a low roar came from his throat. The terrifying blood mist surged from his body and finally gathered into a thick blood cloud that filled the sky. Seeing this, Xiao Yan did not dare to be negligent, waved his palm, and 4 different fires appeared. Then he changed his handprint, and the life-transforming flame spewed out of his mouth. Then he shouted in a low voice, 5-ring flame expelling technique. Seeing the 5 flames in front of him suddenly surged, with a series of bright beast roars, the flames turned into 5 huge fire spirits hovering above his head. When the fire spirit took shape, Xiao Yan shouted again coldly, and the 5 huge fire spirits immediately rotated at high speed, and finally formed a huge 5-colored fire plate hundreds of feet in size. The 4th Heavenly Dou Zun saw this and snorted coldly, and a blood column shot out of his mouth into the blood cloud in the sky. The blood cloud cracked, and a blood-colored palm print nearly 1,000 feet in size rushed out from it, aiming at Xiao Yan and slamming down fiercely. The 4th Heavenly Dou Zun shouted, "Watch me slap you into nothingness." Hearing the 4th Heavenly Dou Zun's roar, Xiao Yan's eyes were cold, and his handprint changed again, and a low drink came out of his mouth, 5-ring flame expelling disc. With Xiao Yan's drink, the huge 5-colored fire plate shot out from the sky, tearing through the void in a few flashes, and collided fiercely with the huge blood palm. When the two collided, the blood and flames burst in the sky. Looking at the terrifying energy hurricane formed in the sky, the 4th Heavenly Dou Zun's eyes narrowed slightly, wanting to retreat but feeling a chill coming from behind. He turned his head and saw a face with a cold smile. The 4th Heavenly Dou Zun's pupil shrank, and he didn't notice when Xiao Yan appeared. Grand Heavenly Creation Palm. Xiao Yan's palm wind hit the 4th Heavenly Dou Zun like thunder, and the terrifying force directly knocked out a mouthful of blood from him, and his figure also used this thrust to fly back quickly. The 4th Heavenly Dou Zun just flew back, and Xiao Yan's green and red bone wings fluttered slightly, and his figure flashed and appeared in front of the 4th Heavenly Dou Zun. He stretched out his palm, and 4 flames gushed out, instantly forming a beautiful fire lotus blooming in the palm. Xiao Yan looked at the look of horror on the 4th Heavenly Dou Zun's face, and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Under the gaze of countless people, a terrible flame storm swept across the sky, and a low explosion came from the storm, followed by a figure wrapped in flames falling like a cannonball from the sky, and the shrill scream sounded in the ears. When the sound was heard, people were surprised to find that the flame figure was the 4th Heavenly Dou Zun, who was so mighty before. But now he seems to be turning into a roast pig. The sound of the wind broke through the sky, and Xiao Yan's figure appeared in the sky above the abyss like a ghost, looking indifferently. His 3 consecutive attacks have severely injured the 4th Heavenly Dou Zun, and if he is unlucky, it is also possible for this guy to fall on the spot. Cut the grass and eradicate the roots. Xiao Yan's eyes flickered slightly, and then he clenched his palm fiercely. A purple-brown fire column with a white light burst out from the palm and finally penetrated the abyss and slammed into the remaining breath. At the end of the fire column, the 4th Heavenly Dou Zun was weak and slightly opened his eyes. His fingers moved, and a jade slip appeared in the palm. Then he crushed it with all his strength. With the jade slip cracking, a space black hole suddenly appeared next to the 4th Heavenly Dou Zun, and a suction surged out and swallowed the latter's body. Xiao Yan looked at the residual space distortion and frowned slightly. He ran quite fast. He gently exhaled, and after fighting 2 Heavenly Dou Zuns from the Soul Hall, and using the Heaven-class combat skills many times, the consumption was too great. Even if he had the quasi-heaven rank technique of the Flame Mantra, he also felt a bit overwhelmed. The crisis of the Yin Alliance is over. Xiao Yan flew out of the abyss and appeared in the sky outside. Looking at the Soul Hall and the Lion Abyss sect's strong people who were still fighting, and snorted coldly, then his 10 fingers flicked in succession. 10 extremely hot fire columns were ejected from the fingertips, hitting the strong people of the other side. With a series of low muffled sounds, shrill screams also rang out. Those ordinary Dou Zun strong people were knocked back and spat blood and flew back by Xiao Yan's attack, and the terrifying strange fire was entwined around their bodies. No matter how they used Dou Qi for defense, it was futile. As a result, many strong people ran away in horror with a flame on their bodies. Some strong people from the Soul Hall also saw this scene and understood that the situation was hopeless, and they drove the black fog to flee desperately. Alliance Lord Xiao, please show mercy. We were also forced to do so. Other strong people and sects who were forced and lured by the Soul Hall hurriedly said. Xiao Yan indifferently glanced at these fickle people and did not completely eliminate them, pondered slightly, and said lightly, "You can go, but exchange your lives for the lives of the people from the Lion Abyss sect." When they heard Xiao Yan's words, the faces of the strong people from the Lion Abyss sect changed greatly. In a moment, the sky burst into chaotic battles again, and the Yin Alliance became a spectator. Xiao Yan sighed and turned to the fortress wall. The Yin Alliance is not down. Long live the Alliance leader. When the figure slowly landed on the city wall, Xiao Yan heard the cheers that shook the fortress, and he also smiled slightly. You made another lone hero. Kailin glanced at Xiao Yan and said lightly, her mouth slightly hooked. For Kailin, who has always been a knife mouth and tofu heart, Xiao Yan can only shake his head and smile. She has always been the same over the years. Haha, the young master is really unexpected, and he can defeat the 4th Heavenly Dou Zun. That old monster's reputation in the Central Plains is not less than your teacher, but it is famous for its ferocity. The 3 elders of the Hu family also flew over and said to Xiao Yan with a big laugh, "Thank you all. I will give you the rest of the reward when I go back." It doesn't matter. With Yao Qin's reputation, he still dares to default? Those Dou Zun strong people who were invited to come over quickly replied. Just as Xiao Yan breathed a sigh of relief, a fragile voice that made his heart tremble suddenly sounded, and his face could not help but bloom a brilliant smile, and a special emotion surged in his heart. If my father knew, he would be very pleased. Father, rest assured, I will save you as soon as possible, and then our family can reunite. Xiao Yan sighed lightly, then quickly walked over and picked up Xiao from Kailin's arms. He kissed her smooth little face, and suddenly a colorful light flashed on Xiao's forehead, and finally stopped on Xiao Yan's shoulder, spitting towards him happily. Is this the 7-colored swallowing python? Seeing this colorful light, Xiao Yan was stunned first, then looked at Kailin in surprise and asked,